Primordial Radio.
Primordial Radio, delighted now to be welcoming what I would say one of the most mindful men in metal, Jesse Leach, Killswitch Engage, Times of Grace. Dude, how you doing, man?
Yeah, well, thank you. How are you?
It's a pleasure to have you here. And so we would just say before we got started today that the last time we spoke was Times of Grace about 2 years ago in 2021. In my mind, that felt like 6 months ago, but actually it's been 2 full years. So how have you been in that time?
Yeah, I agree. Time has definitely been moving very quickly. I want it to slow down a little bit. I've been well, man. You know, since we spoke, did some tours, getting back on that whole thing, writing for the new Killswitch record, doing demos, staying busy around the house. This is the most I've been home. I'd say from COVID times till now is the most I've been home. So I've gotten busy doing yard work and just regular kind of human stuff around the house.
That's good. I recently got on the property ladder, which is wonderful, but also have going through those pains of a homeowner now and finding out about all of the yard work and everything that's to come for me this summer.
It's a gift that keeps on giving. You'll never stop.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear. So you mentioned Killswitch, you write some demos and stuff like that. Perhaps we'll come on to that in just a little bit. But I guess it's a sort of nice leisurely pace for Killswitch in this current moment in time because you got a few festival dates and you're going to be headlining Bloodstock Festival this summer in the August. But I was looking at the run of the dates that you got, and you're literally just flying in and out for Bloodstock Festival, which is probably unusual for Killswitch when you come over to the UK. I imagine it's always part of doing like a big run of dates or like 30 European dates.
Right. Yeah, that's the only UK appearance. You know, we accepted festivals because we weren't able to do them for years. I mean, we haven't been over there for years now. But the album takes priority, and that's taking a lot longer than I think any of us anticipated because there's a lot of quality control going on. And making sure that it's fresh, you know, like we're not repeating ourselves. And so that process has been a little arduous, but I think necessary because we don't want to put out something that's like people are going to go, oh, yeah, another Killswitch record, whatever. So that being said, you know, I definitely miss playing over there. I miss the audiences. I miss the culture. I miss the people. I miss my friends that I haven't seen in 4 or 5 years. So it'll be nice to come over briefly, but I'm really looking forward to getting the record finished and getting back over there for a proper tour, but that is not going to happen for quite some time.
So on the record, they saying bit of a arduous process, been difficult. So where are you with it right now? Are you still in those teething pains? Are you still fighting over the material, or is it starting to solidify a little bit?
I'd say both. I'd say we are solidifying a lot, but there's still some back and forth and looking at parts and rewriting the music, and then I'm revisiting a lot of the lyrics. I've actually rewritten a bunch of stuff because we all got together and had a meeting, and all of us just kind of gave our input on everything, and I took notes, and it's the first time really I think we've done that. But again, I do believe that it's necessary at our stage in our career to really just kind of get all of our heads together to make sure that this record is going to be what we all feel is a good representation of who we are right now.
And with Atonement coming out in 2019, there's so much you can ball up into this album because, of course, yes, there's COVID, and I feel like every band sort of had their COVID album at some point or another. But what came after COVID was almost just as bad, whether it was cost increases, or, you know, and this and that. I guess there's no lack of material to go at in terms of things you might be inspired by to put on a new album.
Right. Yeah, and initially it was, for me, I really wanted to put out something that was healing, something that could help people cope, but it's kind of turned into anger. It's kind of turned into frustration. It's kind of turned into, you know, seeing the greater deceptions of everything that's going on, the struggles of humanity. So I've kind of taken a turn for a little bit more of a darker topic than I initially had hoped for, but I think it's necessary. I think once I really sort of dug into myself, I realized that there was a lot that I was not tapping into. And when I got honest with myself, I'm like, you know what? There is a lot to be pissed off about. And maybe that's the route. Maybe that's the good therapeutic way to deal with it. You don't always have to sugarcoat things and let people know there's going to be hope. Maybe it's just time to to get your hands dirty and talk about some of the harder to deal with topics. So that's kind of what I've been doing lately.
I can imagine there will be a lot of resonance with that right now as people are struggling, all over the world. On Bloodstock Festival, because it's your first time playing Bloodstock, if I'm right, but it's also, you're going to be headlining it as well. And I know when it comes to festivals in the UK, I think you've headlined Second Stage, your Download and stuff like that. But it must be, a nice feeling to be closing out a festival like Bloodstock Festival, 20,000 people. And just looking at the bill as well, yes, what a great sort of end of night that's going to be with like In Flames and then you. There's some lovely synergy going on with that.
That's incredible, and I'm a massive fan. I mean, In Flames helped shape our sound, and they're our brothers. And the vibe that I get from those guys and the music and everything, I love that. I can't wait to be able to sit there and watch those guys, as I'm preparing to take the stage after them. That's pretty incredible for me.
And the way in which they put out their record earlier this year, they're still pushing themselves very much as a band, the way in which you're pushing yourselves right now. Whenever I speak to, newer metalcore bands today, I'm always like melodic death metal at the gates, Soilwork, In Flames. If you haven't, you must.
Well, to be fair, like that's the music. If I were to listen to metal, I lean more towards melodic metal and death metal than I do any other type of metal. So I'm a total fan of all of those bands you just named.
On In Flames, because I don't think you've ever done a cover of In Flames, so I was just thinking about it, because like In Flames have been partial to a cover here and there, quite a few other bands. If you could cover one In Flames track, if you what do you think you would go for? Because there's a lot of metalcore bands that have done bits of melodic death metal, but I don't think it's been flipped on its head. So I'm trying to imagine what Only for the Weak sounds like with a Killswitch.
Only for the Weak would be a really good one. Oh my god, it's a great one. I was just listening to Cloud Connected, and what I like about that song, it's such an anthem, and it's got the electronic part, but what if you reworked that and sort of flipped it on its head and made it heavier, made it more hardcore sounding, took out the synths, maybe covering that and doing like a version of that song, because that, to me, that's an anthem. I love that song. When those riffs kick in after the synthesizers go away, you can't, I remember seeing them in New York City, Terminal 5 in New York City, and they played that song, and you saw the entire crowd and the balconies, everybody headbanging in unison, because that riff is just so infectious. So maybe that one, but something off of Colony too, man. I love the early stuff as well. I'm trying to think of the name of that song. I think it's the second song on that record. I absolutely love that song. I'm bad with names of songs, but I would say anything off Colony would be fun, because it was back in their sort of you call it their Master of Puppets years, where they were putting out that early sort of like raw In Flames stuff. But I'm a fan of everything they've done. I love those guys, and Anders to me is just a great voice and a great guy. Those guys are awesome.
Absolutely. So yeah, hell of a Friday night, In Flames, Killswitch Engage. And when it comes to festivals, is there sort of a different feeling in terms of how you might approach a festival performance, particularly a headline one? Because when it's your own shows, you know that there's a Killswitch Engage fans buying tickets to see Killswitch Engage. Whereas no matter what festival it is you're playing, okay, particularly in this instance, you're headlining alongside Meshuggah and Megadeth, but ultimately, there's still probably a large amount of people in the field who may never have seen you before or have yet to be convinced. So you've almost got like one eye on the folks who definitely know you and love you, but also there's always a chance to win people over who wouldn't know you from Adam at a festival.
Right. No, I think that's important to keep that in the back of your mind at all times, to put on the best performance you can, to be, welcoming, but also to, like you said, I guess, prove yourselves to certain people. Like, people have heard the name, but they haven't seen the band. So what do you do? And I think it's a mixture of pulling stuff from our entire catalog, maybe playing a few things that we haven't played live ever or in a long time, which I think may happen. And then, of course, pulling out the ones that, get people going and we'll sing along. So I think you're going to get a really good mixture of us from every record. I think we're going to pull out all the stops for this.
Which would be amazing. And I think, one thing I will say after last year, the UK isn't renowned for its good weather. I'm sure you'll know that. But last year was 40 plus degrees. So, but that was definitely too hot. But yeah, we'll have to see how we get on. My God, Machine Head. It's funny. So I'm asthmatic, and Machine Head did a little set in the tent. And it was, I had a look at my phone, which has a thermometer on it. It was 42 degrees. I was like,
oh man, yeah. You got to be careful of that, man. Hydrate, stay out of the pit.
That was too much for me at that point. But yeah, really looking forward to the setup Bloodstock Festival. I think as well seeing some of the deeper cuts from Killswitch, because of course the discography that you have now available for that will make that great. So this week though it's I feel like it's a good time to be speaking to you individually as Jesse Leach, because this week is Mental Health Awareness Week, and I said at the very beginning of today's chat, one of the most mindful men in metal. Whenever I think about mental health and metal, one of the first people I always think of is you. And it seems like you have been on such an incredible journey of mental health. I'm sure of many ups and downs. But one thing I was thinking about was managing mental health can be the most difficult thing in the world when you're even in the most comfortable of circumstances. Say, being at home, doing that a little bit of yard work. But it must be even more difficult when you're having a bad mental health day and say you're stuck in an airport, or it's late at 2 o'clock on a bus, or you're just in a bad place on tour. Like, being on tour is inherently a difficult place to be. So I was wondering, how do you manage your mental health in what is undoubtedly difficult and trying circumstances when you go out for long periods on the road?
Yeah, I think it's really, I would say after all these years, I've kind of got it sorted, but your mind can give you wild cards. You could get triggered by something. It's really hard to put your finger on. So it's a matter of knowing what tools you can use to sort of live with your condition, and for me, number one would be getting proper sleep is huge, not even just for your brain, but for your voice as a performer and for your mind, getting out and getting exercise. So I make a huge point to either bring a bicycle on tour, or I'll walk a good, 8 to 10 miles on a day off, or even pre-show if we're in a city that I like. I get up early. I haven't drank a bunch the night before. I've cut way back on my boozing, which is, can be very detrimental to your mental health. But that being said, in the same breath, knowing when to go out and have some fun with the boys and bond and have fun is important too. So I try to do both. Moderation is key. But taking care of yourself, getting, exercise, I would say over anything, getting out and moving, getting your blood going, sweating is one of the best things for anxiety and depression. And like motivating yourself to do so, because there are days where I don't feel like getting out of my bunk. I have had those days where I got to be on stage later tonight, and the last thing in the world I want to do is get up and see anyone's face or talk to anyone. So the music motivates me to push through. And being on tour, as difficult as it is, since I know I have a task to do, I know there's people relying on me, I know there's an audience there, it motivates me to really just get my shit together. But it's not easy. It's never going to be easy, but what's important is you show up for yourself. You do the work. You learn the tools. You say, hey, today I'm not feeling so well. Hopefully you got people around you that will gather around and help you. And sometimes even just saying you're not okay and talking about it a little bit really helps, as opposed to just keeping to yourself and isolating. And, you can be your own worst enemy in your brain, where if you just speak and someone has a perspective that's not yours, it can kind of change what's going on up there. So, exercise, sleep, moderation with the booze, and making sure you speak and just take care of yourself.
I love that. Some very, very practical tips. And I was wondering, is it difficult to say no to things on tour? Because I suppose particularly in your younger years as well, where, okay, yeah, you got a bunch of booze on your rider and there's, parties happening, particularly festivals as well. Was it ever difficult to sort of get to that point where you go like, I must learn to say no?
It was definitely difficult, but now that I'm at that point, it makes it easier, because you sort of remember all those hungover mornings, or flying and you have to puke, and just feeling horrible. And then you get to where you're going and you're this beautiful city, this destination city like Budapest, for example, or somewhere you've never been, and you're too sick to go do anything. So to me, it's a no-brainer. If we're at a festival, especially festival, because that's where you're just stuck in a field or a parking lot and there's nothing to do. So here comes my inner nerd. What I do is I go into my bunk and I get my Nintendo Switch and I plug in Zelda and I start playing video games and I go to sleep and I wake up the next day and I'm good to go. So my anti-drinking thing is getting into my bunk, watching movies or playing video games has become a huge therapeutic thing. And again, with that moderation too, I don't play it all the time. Like when I'm home, I barely game, but on the road, that's huge. That helps a lot. So I've learned through different methods, and it's just sheer willpower. You gotta take care of yourself. But again, balance. Some nights just go in and have fun, and then when you have your hangover, it was worth it.
Yeah, try and enjoy the hangover. So what's it like then when you get home from all of that? Because touring is full of so many highs and lows and dopamine going off and all of that sort. And then you get home and it's yard work. It's right back down to reality, which I can imagine feels like a steep drop at times.
It is, but it's appreciating what you have, and also the home environment, which I've changed mine. 5 years ago, I lived in New York City, in the city itself. So to me, I would get off the road and keep partying. I would get off the road and spend thousands of dollars to go up to the country to like decompress. So what I did was I just cut out the city and moved to the country, and where I live now is where I used to vacation. So I will get on a trail. I will go out and climb a mountain. I'll get in my kayak and go for a ride. Like now I've got all the things I need to help me regulate and maintain, and a partner that understands, and friends that surround me that understand the life that I live, and a family too that checks on me. So all that is in place now. So it's a matter of, again, just being honest with yourself if you're not in a good place, because you can fall into a depression when you come off the road, because you're just buzz, you're moving, you're going, and then there's nothing. And you're just left with yourself. And I think in the early days that would really get to me. And I would just party it away. But now, like, I've got things that I can do to like reset, and coming home is a nice deep breath of fresh air, and I actually really enjoy having the two things. Home life is good, tour life is good. It's good. Yeah.
Finding that balance. It's hard to believe, Jesse, that you're currently embarking on writing one of the angriest albums that you've ever done on this very balanced conversation that we're having here.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's the angriest one. I just would say that it started out as a primarily positive sort of uplifting record where there was too much of that. You can't write a record of that stuff. We're not like that type of a band where you've got to dip into the darkness. So I think that it's, all you got to do is open your eyes and see what's going on in the world, see what's going on in social media, see what's going on with the corrupt governments and how they view us as pawns. Like that's the stuff that really feeds my fire, is how we're mistreated. And we're just sort of like the working class and people that are the structures of these countries. And you've got these people up top who are just pissing away money and treating the people who are the backbone of the country like shit. That's enough to feed my fire and make me feel angry, because I see it around me on a regular basis. If you're paying attention and you're not tricked by their propaganda and their politics, you can see how fucked up society is. You can see how fucked up, quote unquote, countries that are democratic that are not. That's always been something that I'm getting angry just thinking about it. So having a poetic way to write about that, where it's not overtly like Rage Against the Machine in your face, where you can still find an emotional way to connect to what I'm saying and apply it to your own life. That's been the trick for me, is taking the things that fuel me and anger me and turning them into a song where you don't feel like you're being preached at. You feel empowered by it, and you sort of can find solidarity in what I'm saying. So that's kind of where I've been going.
Absolutely. The world is extremely partisan right now. As you were talking about those things, government politics, all of that. I definitely pulled away from all that because I found that it's so difficult to engage in even the subject of politics itself without there being such a partisan divide of why, you're a Marxist leftist, you're an alt-right fascist, and all you've done is one tweet or something. And I just gave up. I just gave up because I couldn't engage in the conversation anymore. So it feels like you're taking a very brave step to almost try and engage in that path in what is a very, very divided place right now. And that is ultimately the place of politics.
Well, I think you just nailed it right on the head. And I did the exact same thing you did. I checked out. And when I checked out, I lost my voice. I lost the thing that gave me my fire. And what gives me my fire is seeing the divide, pointing it out and saying, we don't have as much difference as you think we do. We have a lot more in common, and there's strength in numbers. There's strength when we come together to solve a problem. So for me, it's like I'm looking at both sides. I do not identify with either one. I'm not a right. I'm not a left. I refuse to be labeled. I look at things from the perspective of humanitarian, like the way that I care deeply for humanity. And you don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to. But if you can civilly disagree and have a conversation about it, you could learn something and see something from somebody else's perspective. And that's not happening. It's not happening. And that's where I'm finding my inspiration, to be that person, to just try to bridge that gap, to show that we have more in common. It's not really you and I against each other. It's kind of us against them. Those people that are up top being our puppeteers and creating that divide intentionally, because they are. Because divided means you can be controlled. And control, that's one thing as a young punk and a hardcore kid and metalhead I raged against and I hated, was the fact that we're being controlled and manipulated. So that's it in a nutshell right there. Trying to bridge that gap and let people know that we have a lot more in common than you think we do.
I can see why the new Killswitch album probably is taking a little longer than you might have thought.
It's tricky. It's tricky. Yeah. You want to make sure that, again, we're not an overtly political band. We're a band that wants to make people feel good, and you can attach emotionally to what we're doing. So how do I poetically write these things and make them so they are multidimensional? They're not just one thing. It's not like we're a Rise Against or a Rage Against the Machine, where it's, the subject matter. It's very obvious. For us, it's just, it's tricky. Trying to be poetic about it,
Man, I wish you all the best with that, because it as I say, we live in a very partisan world right now, and you're either this or that. But much like yourself, I don't like to be labeled either, and I don't think it's good to live in an echo chamber, whichever one you may be in. So yeah, we wish you all the best for the new album, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see you in August for Bloodstock Festival. I'm going to be there, Friday night, In Flames into Killswitch Engage. Man, that's going to be amazing.
I know, I'd go just to watch In Flames do it.
Jesse, thank you so much for your time today, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Primordial Radio.